to We'll Throw the After Party. I'm producer Liz, and yet again, we have a week with not all four of us here to entertain you and host your after party, but certainly the level of chaos has gone up this week, so we are in for a very exciting 2 hours as we break down the latest from Only Murders in the Building and Miss Marvel with all of you. I'm joined by my besties, Sly and Alexis. Marissa is off having the time of her life and will return with many stories of adventures next week, but you can follow it all on Instagram at MissOboBissa. But for now, you can follow all three of us live right here with you as we break down everyone's favorite shows and unveil a little bit of what's happening in the group chat. I'm seeing lots of familiar faces. Hey, Leah. Hey, JJ. Thanks for hanging out with us. Alexis, Sly, welcome. How are we, besties?
If anybody doesn't know, the past 3 hours have been pure chaos of Liz and I trying to get the show to happen on time. So now that we're here, now that it's arrived, I am very relieved.
Yeah, me too. Do we want to just give super high level what has happened since 5 p.m. Eastern time? Where do we even start?
So I'll start from my end. I was like, I'm having a chill day. I'm gonna, relax. I'm gonna jump in the shower. I'm gonna watch Miss Marvel, and then I'm gonna have some downtime before the show, right? I immediately get out of the shower to a text from Liz saying, "Hey, my laptop is updating. Can you get on the StreamYard and accept permissions, right? So I can do all the back end
Alexis
stuff."
is at work. Alexis is at work.
Yeah.
And Marissa is on vacation. Just to make the stakes very clear. Now, continue, Sly.
So I immediately hop in. I'm wrapped in a towel, immediately out of the shower, jump in to add myself to the StreamYard, and Liz is sitting here on an iPad. And so then, I go get ready.
This,
Liz
very much
goes
giving this
to get ready. And I legitimately watched Miss Marvel here with Liz as she was trying to get her iPad set up to try to run the show from an iPad.
And as I have dinner in the oven and Instacart on the way to express deliver an Ethernet cord. Continue. Yep.
That was it. You were sitting trying to do something with the oven with a pan. You had an Ethernet cable show up. You went and got it and were texting the update pictures.
I was
retrieving the Ethernet cord. And then we were
pull up some of the evidence here. Hold on.
Quickly trying to put together our infamous show doc.
Here's me confirming that the elevator was on its way, but I'm gonna crop out the floor that I'm on. The photo of the buttons was Yep. And then my laptop said it was gonna take 5 hours to turn back on.
Let me just say, I was at work.
Yeah? You were at work?
No, go ahead.
No. Please.
No, I was just going to say I was at work and I was listening to a documentary about a woman that stole millions of dollars from her local city council. And I was mixing chemicals and I was trying to sneak the last of my coffee in the hallway. And I would have really appreciated out of context pictures of Elizabeth's elevator.
Next time. We didn't want to panic you. We were like, you know what? Marissa's already not coming to the show. The vibes are already off for this week. Alexis does not need to know that I could be producing from an iPad that gives 1 pixel per hour quality of my face. That's not going to help anyone.
Now I'm imagining you in the elevator producing from the iPad. Just doing
just hello. Truly a disaster. God. It's a miracle that we made it, but alas, I am on a laptop. Knock on wood. It's fine.
We trusted the process.
We did.
Liz did not trust the process. I was trusting the process. And Liz put her trust in me.
Yes, it's true. I really did. And then And then, you know, with a good 40 minutes until we wanted to hang out with all of you, we decided to write the show. So if it seems like my transitions aren't as great as they usually are, it's probably because we just decided everything we wanted to talk about. But I'm going to do something I don't normally do, which is remember the first segment, which is what we've been enjoying this week. I love a little self-roast. Alexis, you've been enjoying a lot of different content this week, including a point called Liz's Modern Myth Theory, which I don't know. So I would like you to go first and elaborate on some of what you've been enjoying this week.
Isn't this Mac's Modern Myth Theory?
Yeah, this is Mac's Modern Myth Theory, but Liz added to it. And the part Liz added to is what I'm going to talk about. So I would like to say that I am really proud to continue my trend of speaking weekly on a media analysis show while I only consume media from like 10 years ago. I think it's a really great brand. And so this week I watched Step Up Revolution, Step Up 4 with Eddie Diaz. And here's what I would like to say, okay? 2 weeks ago, Liz looked in the camera and said, I don't even know if all of us have seen all of the Step Up movies. And I was like, Elizabeth, you heathen, how have you not seen all of the Step Up movies? But I thought
and then I got a text from Alexis.
I'm getting there. Shut up and let me have my moment. And then I realized that I thought there were 4 Step Up movies, and there were, in fact, 5 Step Up movies. And of the 4 that I thought existed, I have only seen 2. Okay, so then I watched.
You're
Step
so
Up
upset
Revolution.
about this.
And in Sly's words, it's a movie. It's a thing that happens. Okay, so in an earlier episode of our show, Liz was talking about Mac's Modern Myth Theory. And Liz posited that like Step Up kind of falls in that realm, right? And it blew my brain up. And then I started thinking of all of the different like pieces that the original Step Up has, right? It's a little bit rags to riches. It's a little bit, class divide. It's a little bit Romeo and Juliet. It's a little bit like finding yourself and choosing family and like racial divide. It's got all these pieces, right? And I think one of the reasons that it excels so well, which will become important in a minute, I swear to God, one of the reasons that it excels so well is because both of the actors that they hired for the leading roles had dance experience. And so their comfort with the dance that they are performing adds a certain nuance that is really impactful, but I think may have been unintentional, right? Like when you think about those early dance montages in Step Up, where they're like learning the choreography, right? There's a lot we can unpack about their relationship there because they're comfortable with the dance, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, what I would like to posit happened is that somebody made like a 4-square board and they put Step Up spoilers without context. And they put pictures in there and then they handed it to the writers of Step Up 4 and said, here's everything you need to know about the previous 3 movies. Go to town. Because arguably Step Up Revolution has a class divide and has rags to riches and has Romeo and Juliet, but it just...
Yeah, continue. Keep going.
Okay, the Step Up franchise to me has the same trajectory as Fast and Furious, right?
Yes.
Like where they both started with really meaningful films about family, and then we just started dancing on cars, right? But I would like to argue that the most egregious error to me in Step Up Revolution is that we're telling a story about a community being trotted on by the evil white overlord, which is also the guy that runs the CIA and covert affairs, okay? And we make a point to be like, these people have been here from generations, like since they were immigrants, right? And then we chose street dance and ballet to tell that story in Miami. And I would like to argue that if we're going to tell that story using protest and dance, that Latin dance may have been a suitable option through which to tell that story in Miami. And it may be my Eddie Diaz bias, but I buy Ryan Guzman from the waist up doing a salsa far more than I buy him doing whatever white hip hop shit was supposed to be happening in the beginning of that film. The best part of that movie is the impromptu salsa where you can't see anybody's footwork, right? It's the best part of that movie. And we could have just done the whole movie that way. That open hand, like on his arm, the stories we could tell.
But Alexis,
about, like,
they had to
intimacy
set
and
up
trust.
all in. So he had to be in a hip hop crew so they could set up Step Up 5.
Honestly, I would have taken a Latin dance crew doing solo tangos on the top of sports cars before I would have accepted whatever modern hip hop amalgamation we got in this movie. I had some really thoughtful things to say, but they all went out of my head as soon as
I think you just said many thoughtful things, Bestie. I think you just said all of them, in fact.
So there we go.
A round of tacos for
I
Alexis,
watched Step Up
everybody.
4. And I am haunted by it. You know that what's that line? We say it in my house all the time. I'm haunted by the kiss you've never should have given me, right? Like, yes. I'm haunted by Step Up Revolution.
A round of tacos for Alexis, everybody. And that, it begs the question. It begs the question.
Uh-huh.
Why? That's one question. Second question. This is what you've enjoyed this week?
Yeah.
So, despite all of this.
Listen, there was an open hand in that salsa, and that set a lot of things into motion this week.
Yes, a round of tacos in the chat for Alexis and that incredible start to our show. I couldn't be more pleased that this is the number that we're opening on. Thank you for that.
I also feel like a round of tacos to Sly, who had to put up with Alexis venting about the movie in real time because they were the only one awake.
Yeah. A round of tacos to Sly as well. Absolutely. Okay.
Listen.
For the sake of time, Sly, just take the tacos while they're presented to you. We're moving on. Sly, right. Please tell us about what you've been enjoying this week.
I haven't been able to enjoy much this week because most of my week was spent rewatching Only Murders Season 1. So that took up a significant amount of my time. I did start Transplant Season 2. I think I'm around like 6-ish episodes in. It's just as good as I remembered it. I'm having a blast. Very interesting. Mm-hmm. It's a medical drama. If that's your vibe, it's your vibe. If it's not, I don't know what to say about it. It's a show. I'm having fun. And then we got another episode of Motherland Fort Salem, which shit's going down. I'm very excited. I don't know. I know we made it into the highlight reel from the show when I first talked about it last week, but just every time I think about that show, I hear me going, "It's gay, it's witches." So that's all you really need to know about that.
I would also say that you enjoyed something different this week than you normally do, which is a shopping spree. Sly,
oh God. I hate
you are looking ravishing this evening in a brand new fit that I think deserves a round of tacos from the chat. And in fact, I would say it was the best choice of the options presented, but perhaps over the next few shows, you'll unveil more and more of your summer wardrobe.
I'm really sad that we don't got the green screen is just off enough from the other top. I got a top that's striped green that if I crank up the fade, I can disappear. and that's really fun. But you also lose fun things like my irises and like my entire hairline.
We
It's a
tested it.
lot.
It was really fun.
It was real fun.
I'll post the
But
behind the
yeah,
scenes
I gotta
on
make
the
sure.
After Party Show Instagram later because we did take some footage of Sly disappearing into the green screen. Sorry, please continue.
That's it. I hate shopping. I sent so many SOSs during the trip.
But it resulted in some great finds, so we love this for you. Really quickly, for the sake of time, I did enjoy something this week. Shocking. I never enjoy anything
Proud
other
of
than what
you.
I'm required to watch to do this show, but we finally started the new season of The Boys on Amazon Prime. I'm not done the season. We're only a handful of episodes in. This is a show that I struggled to enjoy in the past and then really enjoyed and then would struggle to enjoy again. And this season's taking the exact same route. However, there are pros and cons. I think that some of the writing's really improved. I think I love the lead. What's his name? Imagine if I could remember his name. Jack Quaid, I think, is incredible in this show. I love his character, and I think that what they did with him this season is particularly interesting, although not inventive, but it's fine. So you don't need to reinvent someone who is doing just fine. And I'll report back when I finish the season. But otherwise, my week, thank God I am Canadian and I had yesterday off because I spent the entire day watching the final part of Stranger Things and then immediately sleeping for 14 hours. I will not spoil. I cried. I laughed. I'm now listening to Master of Puppets by Metallica. I am all over Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. Some incredible
Fun fact about
performances.
Master of Puppets. That song is a literal nightmare to play on baritone saxophone.
I would like to discover how you know this. I feel like that's not a fun fact as anyone knows.
Yeah.
I was in my college sports band. I've talked about that. I played
and you played Master
Anyways.
of Puppets.
Master of Puppets. It's eighth notes. It's very fast. And on a reeded instrument, especially a very large reeded instrument, just shreds your tongue. Very painful. Not fun.
PSA.
So Master of Puppets ruined for me by sports band. R.I.P.
T. That's very, very fair. So Metallica aside, some of the performances in the season, I think we are going to see in the Emmy nominations. And I'm seeing it in the chat, and I'm agreeing with all of you. Hashtag Emmy for Sadie Sink. I would also say Caleb McLaughlin. Is that how you say his last name? Mr. Lucas. If we don't see Lucas getting an Emmy nomination, I will scream because that was one of the most moving television performances that we have had in a long time. It was so beautiful, and it cannot get trampled on. It cannot be understated. Loved it. Anyway, that's all I'll say because it's literally 4 hours of TV that came out yesterday, so most people have not seen it. But alas, I have no life, so I have watched it all. Let's get into our favorite segment of the week. But before we do, my air conditioning is not on, and I am sweating, so I'm going to leave, and you two are going to have to riff for like 2 minutes. Is that okay?
Sure. She
We're
says with
hanging out.
confidence
It's
she
fine.
doesn't feel.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Stranger Things. It's not my vibe, and that's fine. Liz had a hot take earlier. She was like, "What would convince you to watch Stranger Things?" And I was listening like all the reasons why I think it's not like my vibe, right? And Liz made a very hot take that it doesn't matter if there's any audio cues because the audio is so poorly mixed, especially in the high intensity moments, that it doesn't even make sense for hearing people. So it doesn't matter if you can't hear the audio cues in Stranger Things. So that was a fun hot take from Liz earlier today that I'm totally doxing you about.
What hot take about Stranger Things?
About the audio mix being bad?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The audio mix is not great. Also, they can nominate part 2 for the Emmys for 2023. So I am speaking about 2023 nominations for this piece. And I think Stranger Things is so smart to split the episodes over the Emmy dates. That means they get 2 years of Emmy eligibility, and then they'll get probably a third if they can get the next season out in time. So, anywho, who wants to rant? Our favorite segment of the week. If you don't know, if you're new here, we do a segment every week where we rant about something we watched or are feeling about pop culture. Marissa usually is here to round it out, but she is not. So we will each rant for 2 minutes each, and then we'll probably have some extra time if we want to just continue blabbing on about the things that we're ranting about. Because Marissa's not here to take the time from us. We'll cut each other off at the 30-second mark, and we will go for 6 minutes in total and then add on extra Marissa bonus time. I'm going to be ranting about how Dune has hurt me and I want an apology. Sly, what are you ranting about?
I'm ranting about the idea of creators versus the idea of experts in a very digital age, I guess. Is the gist. We'll see.
All right. And Alexis?
Alexis just realized that she had 2 and she never picked one, and that she put herself in the position to have to choose between the mafia and art crime, which was a very poor tactical decision on my part. We're gonna go with how the FBI should solve art crime better. And I feel like this is on the internet and it will come back to bite me in the ass in a couple of years, but we're gonna go with it anyway.
You know what? I feel like it's relevant to Only Murders in the Building. I feel like you're making a point to like our content. I'm like saying what I can to make the future a little softer. All right. Well, it sounds like we have some serious rants and then another 2 minutes of you having to listen to me talk about Dune. So let's just dive straight into it. So if there's one thing that's keeping me going, it's the fact that Dune Part 2 is coming. And yet someone out there thought it was a marvelous idea to push the release date to American Thanksgiving 2023, which is the same release weekend as the new Hunger Games prequel movie. And probably other good movies that typically would premiere on a holiday weekend that we don't know about yet. And not only am I upset, but I am disappointed.
All right, so we live in an age where information is so insanely readily accessible, and the idea that we can directly connect with the people who are at the absolute tip top of their fields and working at like the zenith of like their expertise, and we can have a direct line to them is so revelatory, but it is undermined by the idea of creators and how we interact with them.
So here's the thing. I could care jack all about art. I could name you maybe 5 artists, and definitely not the periods in which they have created their art. But I do care a whole lot about art crime. I could name 25 art crimes, right? And the thing is that when people look at art crime, they always assume, FBI, I'm looking at you, that the motivator is
There is only one answer I will accept for Dune getting pushed by a month, and it's that Zendaya and Mr. Timothy Chalamet better be out there filming secret cameos for the Barbie movie. And if they're not, I don't want to hear about it. If it's special effects, that is not acceptable. If it's getting access to sets in the desert, that's not acceptable. Costuming, not acceptable. Hans Zimmer, absolutely not acceptable. Work within a deadline.
All right, so there was a video that went around recently which sparked this, and in which the original was somebody who is like at the very top of their like field talking about the things they have learned over their career, and somebody with a degree, a lower degree, came in and was like, you're wrong about this because you are. And I just have so many feelings about that.
I have to watch one more documentary when an FBI talking head sits there and says, blah, 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 money, the end, I'm going to scream, right? They can't solve the Irene Stewart Gardner Museum heist because they would make no money selling the paintings because they couldn't sell the paintings because they would be dirty paintings because everybody knows that they're stolen, right? And then I listened to this other documentary about this couple that stole this painting and they hid it behind their bedroom door and nobody found it until they died.
And their cat is getting cast in the Barbie movie and Timothée Chalamet is not. That's where you have to raise every red flag, okay? Because if anyone's face was chiseled enough to be in the Barbie movie, it's Timothée Chalamet. And if anyone is flawless enough to be in the Barbie movie, it's Zendaya. So if that's what they're spending their time doing, I'm all for it. I will shush. I will revoke the rant. But if that's not the reason for the delay,
I lost audio. Okay, so
I didn't
the
say
thing that
anything.
really steams my nuggets about this video is they referred to the person who has reached a very high level in their field as a creator, derogatory, and I was like the idea of being a creator is something that we are all familiar with. We have a lot of creator friends, right? Being a creator is not a bad thing, but when you are referring to people who are experts
so this
as
husband
creators, it
and
brings
wife
them down a level.
couple, they steal this painting and they hide it behind their bedroom door and nobody finds it until they die. But everybody is confused as to how they also have a multi-million-dollar estate, right? They tell this really romantic story about them meeting in the Alps. You know why they met in the Alps? Because they were both art thieves and they fell in love with each other and they decided to steal this painting for one last score. Really? You're going to sit here and tell me that you don't know how these people...
getting pushed to the Hunger Games prequel release trailer is also like a crime against my inner child. So my inner child would also like to speak and be heard here and saying like, what the fuck is this? And I'm not going to be okay about it. I hope that Dune fixes itself or gives me something to work with that's not another shitty edit on Instagram. Sorry to that social media team. And I'm going to stay pressed about it for the next year and a half. The end.
There is space for creators and there is space for experts, and to have both is very important and gives you a wealth of information you can connect with and learn from, right? But by taking a group of people in the expert category and shoving them into creator means that we are reducing how we value their knowledge and their experience, and that is a problem. Also, stop asking Hank Green all of your questions when there are so many people in better fields to answer them.
They skillfully and smoothly stole this painting, which just happened to be the same painting they saw on the day they met. And you're going to tell me that they're two average people that just decided to steal it for like a honeymoon joyride? Are you kidding me? That makes no sense. If you picked up any romance novel that happened in the last decade, you would know why they committed this crime. And it's just really annoying to me that we can't get there, right? That we're like, we don't know how they have money and also have this painting.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add in our bonus Marissa time?
My brain was so muddled, I feel like I did not articulate my point at all during any of that rant. So I'm sorry.
I think you did great.
The point was, somebody made a video that pissed me off by referring to a certain person as a creator, and then it just made me mad because that's a person with way more expertise than you have, and your like handful of credits and your degree do not equate to working against the height of your field and learning from that. And yeah.
Alexis, anything you'd like to add?
I mean, I could talk about this all day. We really need to move on.
Well, guess what? You're in luck because the show that we are starting with tonight is nothing more than an art heist. It's Only Murders in the Building, season 2, people. It's here. And are you ready for this, Alexis? Like yes. The show of your dreams slide? The show of your wife's dreams?
The show of my gay heartstrings.
Truly a show for everybody. Let's start unpacking this by revisiting what happened in season 1. For the next 45 minutes. Spoiler warning for Only Murders in the Building. We're giving you every single piece of tea from season 1 and then diving into what we thought of the first 2 episodes. So come on back in about 45 minutes and we will move on to a game exposing what happened in the group chat this week. You don't want to miss it. But for now, it's time for Rowdy recap. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you are not interested or haven't seen season 1, we will be recapping for you so you can be caught up with us.
It's true. You will know everything you need to know to listen to tonight's conversation if you do not care about spoilers. However, if you were planning on watching the show, perhaps a good idea to jet out. Let's bring the timer back and start with a little Rowdy recap of season 1, in which we're going to try and tell you as much as we can in 30 seconds each. I didn't realize this was a Rowdy recap and wrote way too many notes. And I have the first 3 episodes, so this is going to be a nightmare. Are we ready, friends? Alexis is like grinning because you are at the end, which means you can actually adjust for time and figure out, what you need to do. But no, then there's me with like my 10 million bullet points. It's fine.
And
I only have the entire setup for the series.
I'll have to add anything Liz missed in her segment during mine. It's fine.
It's fine. Let's do it. So episode 1 of season 1 is the entire setup for the show in which our main perp gets refrigerated. His name is Tim. The trio realizes they all love true crime podcasts and get together. And there's a lot of weird artsy shit that never returns in the style of the show ever again. Episode 2, we find out a lot of people didn't like the guy that got refrigerated, Tim. But we find out Mabel knows him from her childhood, really big deal. And there's all these connections that Mabel knows because she knows him so well. It connects to jewelry. It connects to a lot of things.
Season 3, there's a unalived cat in a literal freezer, and Oliver gets threatened for eviction, and Teddy, the neighbor, sponsors the podcast. This is all Liz's stuff still. Okay, episode 4, Sting is the suspect, and they meet Cinda Canding, who tells them to give him a turkey. Mabel incorrectly solves the Post-it note, and you meet the horticulture homies in Jersey. Then there's more Hardy Boat's backstory. Thank you to Mom.
Oh, shit. Okay, we find a bunch of stuff out about Theo's past, and we break into the apartment badly, and we see that there is a bunch of jewelry in the apartment, and then somehow we get to the funeral home. I don't really remember how that went down. And then they get threatened a lot, and then Jan is a liar, and we know that she's a liar, but we're not sure if she's an unaliver.
And then in the last episode, the finale, also, Jan's important and we gave no context as to who she is. She's somebody else in the building that Charles falls in love with. We also didn't introduce any of the characters to you, which could be important to understanding any of this. Full stop. Full stop. Let's do some character introductions, perhaps, and then continue the Rowdy recap.
Okay, Jan is Steve Martin's girlfriend.
Okay, wait. Oh, before we get there,
Charles hated them.
There are 3 main characters in this godforsaken show. There's Mabel, there's Oliver, and there's Charles. And I believe I have a picture of them that I can pull up. I currently only have a picture of Alexis's.
Selena Gomez. Charles is a washed-up actor, and Oliver is a washed-up or never really successful theatrical producer.
And you should know that I only refer to them as Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez.
Yeah, the character names don't exist here. But yes, so there's also a woman named Jan, which if you watch The Office, y'all remember Holly from The Office that falls in love with Steve Carell. Spoiler for The Office, but hopefully you've seen The Office by now. I don't think Alexis has either, so that's great. So Jan is Holly, same actress, falls in love with Mr. Charles, but also, does she really fall in love with Charles? We also said the name Theo. Who's Theo?
Theo is Teddy's son. Theo is deaf, played by James Caverly, which Marissa would correct me and say it's Jimmy Caverly, because apparently that his like acting name is his dad's name. I don't know. His dad owns a deli shop and is also a illegal black market jewelry dealer via the funeral home.
That he owns? Question mark? Yeah.
Question
Think
mark.
so.
I don't
Think so.
remember.
Owns along with the deli.
So we end season 1 with a few things to be true. Jan, Tim Kono. Okay, she's the big bad here. And it all goes down in a boiler
Also
room.
with sleeping with Tim Kono.
Also the sleeping with Tim
yeah.
Kono.
I forgot about that. That was a thing that happened.
And they find her like cello
cleaner.
Yeah, the bassoon
Cello?
cleaner that was
The
also
bassoon
like,
cleaner.
I'm sorry, the bassoon bow. Okay. Sorry.
Bassoon doesn't have a bow.
Well,
Did you call it a bassoon bow?
Well, the thing
It's a
that they
cleaner.
find.
It's a cleaner.
I thought it was
'cause
like
they think it's a
No.
tail
it's
or a whip or
Oh,
something.
I'm thinking it was a cello, but it was not. She had a bassoon thing that she played.
Yeah, it was
yes.
not a cello.
Who wasn't a band kid?
No, it should have been. I feel like there could have been like more weirdly sexual scenes with the cello.
That's
They
what
tried
I'm
to set that
saying.
up, and I feel like the cello was like classic. for
Here's
that.
the thing.
I say
I
as a
really
violinist,
love-
I was an orchestra kid.
Sly?
I really love the idea of making an instrument that you legitimately can't play standing up, the like sexy instrument, because you
Right.
legitimately have to be sitting or like the bass will fall off, right? I
Right.
love that. It's so fun.
Right. So true. I say not knowing that that was a fact, but now I do know it's a fact, and I find it very fun. Okay. Well, that's really the end of season 1. There's a whole scene that goes down that's very comedic in the boiler room, in which there's some of these and some of this and some of this, and then Jan gets arrested, and then the big ending is that Miss Selena is framed for the
It's also the opening for
superintendent.
episode 1.
Yeah, let's just go right into it then. The opening for episode 1 reminds us that Selena's been framed for the refrigeration of the superintendent of the building, Bunny,
The board manager.
the board
Right, that's
manager,
her- board
condo
president.
building.
That's her title.
Board president. So first, let's just talk about how we're feeling about what we saw in these first 2 episodes before we get into like what actually happened, because a lot went down in these first 2 episodes. We have a whole setup for a new mystery that we're going to unpack over the course of this season. We have new characters introduced. We have old characters coming back, and we're learning more about some of the characters that we've become familiar with. And most importantly, we've uncovered that this show was written with Alexis at its core. Because first and foremost, before any other fact is true, allow me to get a banner going. Hold on. I meant to set this up a while ago. This show is a gay art heist. And if you know anything about this show, Fly, say our tagline that we've accidentally come up with. What are we?
We're here. We're queer. And we'll throw the after party.
We sure will. So a gay art heist, sign me fuck up. And certainly when I watched it, was I the first to watch it?
I watched the first episode first, but you watched 1 and 2 before I finished 2. Yes.
And I watched it and was like, and then immediately upon Alexis watching it, sent a very enthusiastic text that said, gay art heist, gay art heist. And then when Sly texted to say they had watched episode 2, I sent gay art heist with the celebration text animation. You know when you iMessage and you can send confetti?
That's my favorite animation. I use
you
that all
said
the
fireworks.
Oh, apologies. I see fire.
I see confetti. Sly will be like, I'm awake, good morning. And I'll be like, confetti.
And the best part about that is Alexis won't type anything. And so the alert will just say blank message. And so it'll be like text from Alexis, blank message. And I'm like, oh, there's confetti.
I love this. I love this energy. I would like to start receiving blank confetti texts from you, Alexis. Just so
I've
you know.
put a couple in the group chat.
You have.
Listen, there's a leverage episode where Parker walks around with like Christmas bows and she just sticks them on random shit. And she'll be like, sad, happy. And I would like to walk around with confetti in my pocket and just be like, sad,
Yep.
happy.
Beautiful. So on brand for you. I support this. We need a little alpine-shaped confetti you can throw around.
Dude,
My God.
Yeah, that'd be beautiful. Beautiful.
I see a cricket project in my future.
Put it in the show notes. One cricket project identified from episode 14. But let's start the segment, which we're calling the We Have a Hunch segment, in which we talk about what our greatest hunch is for the series so far, based off these first 2 episodes. This is a segment all about vibes, all about feelings, not necessarily about the facts of the case, which is what we're going to get into next. But if you're watching Only Murders, let us know what you have a hunch about now, what you're feeling about season 2 in the comments. Part 1 of mine is just gay art heist, all in caps. But I'll pass it over to Sly. Sly, what do you have a hunch about right now?
All right. So in episode 1, it was just like the setup of like what's going on with all the like cop legal bullshit, right? And then episode 2, we get the history, the backstory, right? And we're learning about the painting, blah 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 blah. We meet Lenora, who is Bunny, the refrigerated person this season. Her mother, who is she's the daughter of the person who like built the building, right? Anyways, this whole episode, they're talking about like how this painting is hers and how she acquired it, blah, 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 blah. And for like 90% of the episode, I was 100% convinced that the artist who did the painting is named Rose Cooper, right? And then Lenore Folger is the mom. I was convinced they were the same person and that the reveal was going to be that Lenore had made the painting and had pretended to like buy it or whatever so she could disappear, right? Because Rose Cooper disappeared mysteriously, was then declared dead, right? She was trying to get away from a man. And up until the line where they make where Lenore makes a comment that both Lenora and Rose were having an affair with Charles's dad, I was so convinced they're the same person. And then we got to that line. It was like, she would not have worded it that way if she was talking about herself. Damn it. But that was my big hunch for these episodes.
Alexis, I know we threw this segment at you late, but do you have a hunch about anything that stuck out to you watching the first 2 episodes?
So I took approximately 2 pages of notes.
So did you have one hunch? No. Did you have 2 pages of hunches?
I started my notes with a TLDR. Right?
I would like to say you have 5.5 pages of notes, according to our document.
And that's only half my notes, because I also have other documents of notes. It's fine. Okay, so I started my notes with a like, these are too long, no one's going to read them. Here's what you need to know, right? And after that, my first note is Alice is ... something. I want to be her. I'm also in love with her.
So Alice, just to be clear, we're talking about Cara Delevingne's character that was just introduced in season 2. We have a picture. I'll pull it up so everyone can see if you're not already familiar.
I have some feelings.
Feelings were had.
I have the feelings were had, especially with the art gallery, like shaved head and the piercings and the. Anyway, my also thought is that something is going on with Alice. I don't trust her. Liz and I had this delightful conversation about how it's a good con and it can be a good con even if it's not a con because relationships are just cons. But I don't trust her, but I do want her. So those would be Those would be my vibes for the first 2 episodes.
I feel like we learned something about you in your life. Like, I feel like that feeling is not exclusive to Alice on this show. And perhaps we've just learned something about how you approach people in general. Am I reading too much into this?
I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of ex-girlfriends out there that are like, that tracks.
I love you so much.
I love you so much.
Sly, anything you want to add?
Oh, I stand by my prediction that she's going to be the red herring. They're going to set it up in a similar vein to how they set up Jan, and then make it be like, oh no, another one of our like romantic interest characters is the suspect. But then they're going to she's going to be the red herring. It's going to be somebody else. But I feel like they're going to set her up like that.
I have a feeling that Miss Alice is working for Tina Fey. And Tina Fey has paid her to solicit Mabel and get dirt that they can use in their podcast to frame her because they have nothing else to go off of for this new refrigeration that's taken place.
All right.
That's my hunch.
I will say this like vague art collective that we still haven't seen. You know, this like, go, just come, we get together and do art, right? And Selena is like, I need you to hear you say that it's not a cult. It very much gave me gay art collective from Bridgerton season 1. That was a thing that happened, right? Or it wasn't gay. I thought it was gay and it wasn't gay, right?
Yeah.
Was it polyamorous or was it gay?
To be honest, I still don't know, Alexis. I'm still not clear on what that was. So you were asking the wrong person.
Okay. But anyway, it gave me those vibes.
Yes,
I was like, well, that's an interesting story to kind of like repeat in media.
Yeah. I would also like to add that the art collective, the exterior shot, is the same apartment that they use in New Girl. I'm convinced of this, and I need to go actually compare it. But as soon as it was on my screen, I was like, that is the New Girl loft. So if anybody else watches New Girl and wants to confirm or deny in the comments, I would love to know. But I'm convinced. And if that's the case, then I have so many questions about how the New Girl universe fits into the Only Murders in the Building universe, because I refuse to accept that they are different universes. They must coexist. So that's a very important point to me specifically. Thank you. The comments agreeing with me. It absolutely is the New Girl loft. So we know, what year did the New Girl end? And then did it stop getting rented and did it get sold so we could turn it into an art collective space? Much to think about. And if so, I would like to think that Schmidt and Cece and Jess and Nick and Winston all go to these art collective meetings and look at the art to just fuck around in their old apartment. That's canon to me. That will keep me going. So, with that said, my big hunch for the week, and this is going to triage us into our newest addition to the show, which is our suspect board. We really need a suspect board sound. It's not whatever just came out of my mouth.
It can be the sound of your phone receiving the 82 messages that I wanted on the suspect board. Just like ding, 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 ding.
Let's look at our suspect board because my biggest hunch leads us to our new segment called our Suspect of the Week. And this week's Suspect of the Week is none other than Timothy Chalamet. And the reason why Timmy is our Suspect of the Week is because Mr. Martin Short, aka Oliver, says to Amy Schumer that he wants Timothy Chalamet to play him in the movie version of Only Murders that Amy Schumer wants to produce. That's enough reason for me to believe that this man's going to make a cameo in the show, and he's going to make it as himself. Alexis, I know you agree.
Yeah. Timothy Chalamet, who I think so much about.
I know. I think you think about him probably half as much as I do.
I feel like that is a generous estimate.
But it's okay, because if you disagree with me, we can also introduce our second board, which is where everyone can add their Suspect of the Week. So mine is Timothée Chalamet. Sly, do you have a suspect of the week that you would like to add?
We'll see. We'll see if we get there by the end
We'll
of it.
see how we feel. We can reevaluate after
Oh,
we've
wait.
dissected.
No, I actually do.
You actually do. Would you like to go ahead and edit it in?
I don't think that this will be the actual suspect. I think this is who they're setting up for the next suspect. And it's Nina Lynn, who's the new board president. Oops.
Okay. New board president Nina Lynn, who we only saw briefly at the memorial for the wake for
Like,
Bunny.
The wake.
Yeah.
The
or whatever
weird
for
wake they
Bunny.
did inside of the apartment, which I thought was a little bit of a choice. But they had many dips and good outfits, so I'll allow it. Alexis, would you like to cast your vote at this time or circle back?
I would like to circle back.
Let's circle back. Allow us to return to our main board, of which we should point out from step 1, Alexis has about 15 more categories that we could dissect this episode from, but we've chosen to dissect episodes 1 and 2 via the following. We're going to examine the people who would want to hurt Bunny, who, remember, is our main suspect, or the main person who has been refrigerated, the main crime we're trying to solve for. We're also going to examine people who would benefit from the Only Murders podcast getting canceled, which is the podcast that Oliver and Charles and Mabel run together. We're going to pop some evidence in the middle here. And if there's more suspects we would like to raise, we can pin them on the bottom of the board. And this is interactive. So for those of you that are watching live, and if you're watching the replay, hello to our replayers. You can comment later. We can update the board with what you think. But for those of you watching live, stay with us and toss in the comments what you're thinking. And we will do our best to circle it all up. Alexis, I would like to know what's standing out to you when you look at these 2 categories.
I see 3 categories.
Okay, 3 categories. Yes. My apologies.
Well, I think, I think the rival podcast, right? This, I keep wanting to call it serial.
Only Murderers.
And it's not serial. The Only Murderers podcast. I think they're kind of an obvious choice, but what I think is interesting is to kind of analyze the players that are involved with the Only Murderers podcast, because on the surface, this is something like Cinda Caney could really, what's her name in the show? I keep wanting to.
Cinda Canning.
Cinda Canning. Okay.
Yep.
That Cinda Canning could really benefit from. She also has a slew of producers who maybe could or could not benefit from the Only Murders in the Building podcast being canceled.
I'm gonna add Detective Williams would benefit from the cast getting
good
canceled.
one.
Big time. Which, by the way, I loved the writing for Detective Williams in these first 2 episodes, or the first episode where she appeared. I thought a fabulous reintroduction to the character, if I may say so.
Mm-hmm.
I would also like to say that when Mr. Michael Rappaport appears, our main interrogator guy in that first episode, my notes
Detective Krebs.
My notes accidentally read Michael Rapapaport, and I chose not to fix it.
My notes read, "This is ... not a good interrogation."
No, it was not. But at least Mabel called them on it, which I felt like you would be proud of, Alexis.
Yes. Yeah. I would also like to posit, this is going to be a really annoying one because I know we don't have it. So just imagine it. Well, I don't know. Maybe Sly read my brain and we have it. But I would like to posit that Howard's new cat would also benefit from
Very
the
much.
podcast being canceled.
Evelyn.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point that I will stand with you on.
Thank you.
And it's interesting because doesn't he come to the door and come knocking to say, "Oh, you should be there"?
And Liz, you and I talked about this off mic a little bit, that this is arguably a good show, but that maybe not a show that knows what crime it's solving. I would argue that I don't know that I trust that the show knows who did it, right? I think the show may be putting us in one of those situations, but
Right.
where they like have a plan for a couple episodes, and then in a couple episodes you find out that like Georgina wasn't actually Gossip Girl, it was Dan Humphrey
Yes.
all along, right?
Yep.
And I thought it was interesting that they really layered Howard into those first two episodes, because he's not someone that we like. I feel like his ratio to screen time in these first two episodes is equal to his ratio of screen time in the entire last season, right? It felt really saturated with him in a way that maybe felt kind of intentional, kind of like Sly's red herring theory with my future wife, Alice.
Right.
Wow, already planning our divorce. I see how it is.
I'm going to keep adding notes here while Sly reads the private chat. I have a lead.
I don't care. Thank you.
Oh, you don't care?
But
Okay.
I literally don't care.
Beautiful. I'm still going to add a note. I have a thought that Oliver's son, who we have not heard about, but was super important for 5 minutes one time. I am curious if the son's gonna come back. Is that his name?
Yeah, Will the vet.
Will the vet. Yep, him.
Yeah, I forgot he was a vet. Yeah.
But
he saved Winnie.
He did, which I also forgot happened. So I'm curious, like, he wants his dad to make money and be independent. But, like, does he really want his dad to be, like, wrapped up in all this refrigeration and, like, drama when really he thinks his dad should, like, chill out and, like, maybe move in with him or something? I don't know. But I don't know if he would go so far as to threaten his father with all of this.
I'm also interested. I need some stats. I need some information on how this podcast is affecting the property value or perceived property value of the Arconia. Like, is it going up because it's popular? Is it going down because there are murderers in the building? Like, we've had evidence to both, right? We had evidence in the first season to like things going down. We had evidence kind of later to its rising popularity, because I feel like maybe there were some like board members or even, apartment residents, Arconia residents that could benefit perhaps from the podcast being canceled.
Absolutely. The residents of the Arconia, right? And the board.
Yeah, right.
In the same thought. I'm going to put them on the same. Very much. Sly, anything else you want to add here?
Nope, I think that's pretty much encompasses 90% of our cast.
Speaking of, let's take a moment before we go into people who want to hurt Bunny. And look at this incredible diagram that Sly has made. Sly, would you like to walk us through it? It's not great. I think it is. I really enjoy it.
I needed a visual representation of nearly all of the characters we've seen so far. Like, not everybody's here. Like, we don't have Mabel's mom and like okay, so we have our main subject, right? We have Bunny in the middle. Anybody in orange is refrigerated. Anybody in the, I don't know what color that is, but it's
pink, pinky red.
It's the Alexis color. That's just what it's always called.
True.
Has unalived somebody, right? Teddy is black because he's in jail. Nina is blue because I think she's going to eventually become a suspect. And then our gang is in pink.
Right on. So of the people that are in gray, I guess, those are the people that we can really focus on in terms of the people that would want to hurt Bunny. Obviously, we have Nina Lynn here as like a potential suspect. But who else can we pull from this list as people that may want to have motive against Bunny?
I would say the biggest suspects for people who want to hurt Bunny is the gang.
True. Very true. And we do see Charles put a sticky note up that says me with a question mark, which I thought was very funny and meme worthy. So even he perhaps is doubting their own role in all of this. I think also Bunny's mom had like come out with a very clear motive in episode 2, being like, I want my art back. But also I don't think
I hard disagree with that one.
Yeah, but that's the only character we've seen that has specifically talked about or to Bunny. I also don't know if like the motive was Bunny necessarily, or if it was just Alexis. Please.
I was going to say that. I was going to posit that perhaps the goal was actually Bunny's bird. And when Howard's cat was trying to kill Bunny's bird, Bunny just got in the way.
Wow. That's a good take. I really like. So you think someone was going after the bird, and you think specifically Howard was?
I think Howard was helping the cat kill the bird.
Oh, okay.
And Bunny got in the way. We have some
I'm thinking Howard
assisted murder.
Okay. That is certainly a theory that we will remember and revisit regularly because it's just that good. However, I do think the idea of the bird being the thing that they were going after and not Bunny is very interesting, because Bunny absolutely would like sacrifice herself for the bird.
And who knows what the bird knows. But I would like to point out that there was this weird sense of deja vu for me watching this episode, where someone passed away and had an annoying bird that they vindictively left to somebody else. Almost as if I had recently seen a show where someone passed away and they had an annoying bird and they left it to somebody else, and it was the plot of an entire episode.
What show?
911 Lone
It's
Star.
911 Lone Star. Spoilers for Liz.
That's incredible. I did not know. I love. Okay. So, people who would want to hurt Bunny. We have the gang. We also have the art, which I'm very scared our stream is going to get taken down if we show the full art piece. So, like, let's stick a happy face over it or something. Oh, no, that didn't work.
The very overpriced art piece, by the way.
Yeah. Do you want to give that rant very briefly?
Okay. The short version is that art is a commodity that we all just kind of see as expensive, right? It's like diamonds, right? Like there's a high perceived value to art. And I feel like this show maybe misread how they needed to interpret that high value. But $1 million, like it is simultaneously not a lot for art and a lot for art. Like there are a lot of other pieces by actual like renowned artists. I Googled, you can find a list that have sold for around $1 million plus the buyer's fees from Christie's and Sotheby's, right? And then there are also pieces of art like the fake Salvador Dali that was believed to be painted by Da Vinci that sold for $450 million, right? So it is simultaneously a lot of money and not a lot of money, but I don't buy that this piece of art is a $1 million piece of art. Like
which
that
I think is like
up there
very
with like
important.
German masterpieces, right? Like this to me is not. There have been a few Rothkos like decades ago that sold for $1 million, and now the fake Rothkos are going for 80 million. I just don't know that this is a piece of art that is up there with.
It really seems like lazy writing, unless it's something that's going to come back and they're like, actually, it's a $2 million piece of art. They try and like make it an actual point of
I
relevance.
did think the point about it rising in value after the artist's death was interesting. It's kind of like both a commentary and a point in the show that, like, when she passed away, the value of her art went up. So I guess that's a factor as well.
However, the art is NSFW, so we will not be revealing it. You'll have to watch the show to see it for yourself if you don't know what we're referring to here. Sly, I see that you've added some more evidence to the board. Would you like to walk us through it?
The bird is evidence because the bird can speak, and they don't know where the knife is, so it's missing. But if you can find that, maybe it'll give us a clue.
I bet Timothy knows where the knife is. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, we are running short on time, and we have a whole other show to unpack. So is there anything else we want to add to the board before we end this segment? Going once? Going twice? Let's share our final thoughts on these first 2 episodes of Only Murders. I'd love to hear what everyone thinks is coming for us this season based on what's been set up. For me, I'm really excited that fashion is bigger and better than in season 1. Selena's been looking so good. It seems like we're still going to get that high quality level of referencing to Broadway and New York City, which is why I think the Timothée Chalamet joke was so interesting, because that is a big, if you know, New York joke. I also think like the writing this season is what I expected it to be, so that's fine. I did think Selena Gomez was wearing Harry Styles merchandise at one point, but that was very wrong, and I just want to call that out, that's how into the Harry Styles culture I am right now. And I also feel like the fur coats are going to be relevant, but I don't know how. Because they made a big point about Bunny's fur coats. And if it was meant to be a funny fashion thing, it did not feel that way to me. So therefore, I'm trying to choose that they mean more than that. Sly?
Something I noticed in season 1 was they had really interesting credit music, but didn't do anything with that, like hint-wise. And so this season, I think it'd be really interesting for the song choices to maybe have something to do with the story, other than just being like kind of like the vibe of the episode, which they usually are. I really like the getting more history around the building. I love building plans. I love secret anything. I love fun building lore. That's been really fun. Yeah, I want to know what's going on with the bird. I want to know what happened to Howard's eye. I want to know what's going on with Charles's father and Rose's mysterious disappearance. All the things.
If there's anything this show loves, it's a map. A map of this building would make the series like A++ for me. Alexis?
Let's see. I think that the mural, Selena Gomez's mural, Maple's mural, is going to become important. I think it's really interesting that that was like one of the last photos that she posted before the framing happened. She has looked to the mural a lot. The mural has been a point of conversation with she and Alice. And I'm almost wondering if the mural didn't reveal like someone living in the Arconia that maybe other people didn't know was living there, like something like that. So I think the mural is going to come more into play. I will say that I feel that the first season, one of the things that, Liz, you talked about kind of its references to Broadway in New York. I thought the first season was very specific and careful and clever with the way that it referenced podcasting and true crime podcasting. I think that this second season was far less careful with that. in ways that were almost a little offensive to certain parties that have been involved in those cases. So I would like to see kind of more of that like careful highbrow referencing that we got in the first season in comparison to what we're getting now. And I want to know more about Howard and his cat, his new cat. So hopefully that we'll get more of that down the pipe as well.
Have we seen the cat yet?
I believe so, yeah.
You
Yeah.
did?
Mhm.
Good. I was going to say that would be a big reveal, but I couldn't remember if we had seen it or not. One more point on Only Murders that I want to raise, because it's a good transition into our next segment about the group chat. There is a moment where we see in Mabel's phone that Charles's name is Charles Old. And I wanted to say that I feel like Alexis thinks that we all have Alexis in our phones as Alexis Old. When in fact, Alexis in my phone is Alexis cat knife. But I did see that and go, that's very funny, because I'm sure Alexis feels exactly that
I think I, in fact, sent a message today that was like, I'm so old.
You send that text every day.
You do.
Every day, Alexis awakes and says, "Good morning, children."
Sent Marissa a series of TikTok messages. So I send Marissa TikTok videos about a certain subject that we will not reveal in this podcast, or will not reveal on this show. And one of them was about something that had happened within this specific topic in like 2005. And I sent it to Marissa and was like, I'm not even sure you've seen this because you were a baby in 2005. And then it occurred to me actually how much older I am than Marissa and like how young she would have been in 2005. And I then had a whole panic and was like, I am so old. Were you even born yet? Like, were you alive in the year 2005? Yeah, she was 5 years old, in case anybody was wondering.
Marissa was 5 years old?
I think that's what she said.
She can't be.
No, because I was 6 in 2005.
Wow. Well, I don't know. That's what she said.
I was like, if Marissa was 5 in 2005, then like a lot of things are wrong. Because that would mean I would have been 5 in 2005, and that's wrong, factually speaking.
Well, we'll have a reveal when she comes back on, but it was a long mess of panic on my part.
Yes. Sorry, I had a transition and then Sly said something and now it's all gone from my brain. We're going to play a new game called Text from the Group Chat, where we pull back the curtain on what happened in the group chat this week by revealing some of our most chaotic texts. Some of these texts you'll get context for, and some you will not. I'm going to post we're back to talking about the group chat in the comments. Anyone that's been waiting can come back. Let's get things started with this first one. How about we put it on the screen? We don't say who sent it, and we see if people can tell.
Yes, who sent it? Yeah.
So the first text is, when I tell you blank should get refrigerated for not respecting my marriage. That was certainly something that was said this week by someone on screen, in fact.
Yeah.
And this is one of those ones
I feel like we need Jeopardy music, right? Like
we really do. I am going to get the soundboard set up for future episodes. I really will. This is a comment that we will not be further elaborating on, but it was said. And if y'all want to guess who said it, you can throw it in the comments now. Our next one. I always say be a bitch. This was said by someone not on screen.
Not on screen.
Really narrows down the possibilities here.
You're right. It was my cat, Sassy. It was Sassy who said
Sassy's getting real good.
Yeah.
I don't remember the context behind this one, so shall we move on?
I do know the exact context behind
but we can still move on.
Okay, someone can tell me in the private chat.
Yeah.
Now, the next one, we do have context around, and I'm going to allow this person to share it via story time. Disney, would you like to explain to me why my dog can be queer, but Bucky Barnes cannot be? And I can show you what this was in reference to, actually. It was this dog toy for $7.99, probably at Lowe's.
No, it was at PetSmart.
And Alexis sent that text in the group chat.
So one of us typically doesn't have to go to PetSmart because their cats are on prescription cat food because that is the life that we live as a childless millennial. And I had to go because there is a shortage, a national shortage on their prescription cat food. And so I had to go to PetSmart. And after I got over the fact that Hill Science Diet doesn't showcase a single black cat on any of their food bags, I noticed the Disney Pride bone at the checkout counter. And like all of my thoughts, I decided it instantly needed to be shared in the group chat.
Like all of my thoughts. But honestly, you raise a valid point. Also, what is this?
Yeah, I'm legitimately annoyed.
It's like a bone like
There
pillow.
are bark.
Does it say Pride?
Mm-hmm.
This is
Fascinating.
Pride,
That's what it
and
looks
it's
like.
rainbow colored. And it apparently also has a rainbow squeaker. But I don't know. I mean, you would have to tear the bone apart to get the rainbow squeaker. But it was advertised that it contained it was gay on the inside as well. It had a rainbow inside.
Beautiful. Disney, you have 1 week to respond. Next. SOS clothing question. Didn't accidentally point towards this one earlier in the show at all.
I wonder who that could be. I would like
However,
to let everybody know that it took over 10 minutes to get a response to an SOS, and it took the longest person to respond over 2 hours. So, you know, if there's an emergency, I have little faith in this group.
listen, I was in calls. I was being the business bitch, okay? I had things happening, but yes, you're right. Granted, everybody knows the highest flag to raise is Liz important. So next time,
Liz
It was
important.
not at the point of a Liz important.
it was not a Liz important. It was just an
step below.
SOS. It was just a real like mission critical military language.
I'd like
acronym,
to know
right?
the hierarchy. Is that Liz important?
Liz important is the top.
Yeah.
For sure. It has to be. Next, I'll do better for you, Sly. That's a promise we can replay in a future highlight reel. Next. My debit card declining at McDonald's is a new low. really exposing myself with this one. I'm not gonna lie. That was me. And my debit card did decline at McDonald's. Rough week. But
It
it's
was a
fine.
new low.
It's fine. We got through it. It was not my fault. It was an error, but it's fine. Subsequently, related text. If we can't have coffee at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, what can we have? Which was said by someone off screen in a very loving wife fashion. Alexis, anything you want to add to this?
Okay. I would like to issue a heartfelt apology to you and Marissa and also Sly, who I may have occasionally judged for their coffee habit because I did not drink coffee. In fact, the only time I consumed coffee was when I was getting ready to go to boot camp and I hated coffee. I was literally only drinking it because I was like, I'm going to be like officers camp and like that's the only form of caffeine I'm going to have. And like, so I have to learn to drink it. I hated it. And then I was introduced to cafe con leche, which is just steamed milk and espresso. And I have consumed a ridiculous amount like daily since I discovered it. And actually today when I came home from work, I found that my coffee maker was broken and it caused such distress that in fact someone right now is bringing their coffee maker over so that I can have my coffee in the morning. So I'm sorry for any
I'm so proud of you.
thoughts I have had about your coffee habit.
this growth is the reason why we started this show. If nothing else, to make each other better. And I feel,
especially because my relationship with Sly really started with me reminding them daily to drink coffee and not getting it at all. Like, did not get it.
It was not. It was, you were reminding me that I have to eat before I start hyper focusing so I don't pass out every day.
Yes, yeah. Yes.
welcome officially. Does that mean we can finally put out coffee cups as a merch piece? Is that what this means? We can do coffee cups that everyone would use?
Please.
How lovely would that be?
Yes. Yeah.
Before I start on a rant about coffee cup merch, next. Did someone purposefully add a credit card to the show Google account? I'll let everyone guess who sent this text and who accidentally added the credit card to the account.
Listen, someone was just trying to buy their Nancy Drew games at like 1:00 in the morning and didn't realize what Google account they were logged into.
And somebody got an email at like 11 p.m. saying you've successfully added your credit card to the Google account for our shared Google account, and went, that doesn't sound right.
And then I think Marissa and I both responded with like, I don't know how I would even do that. And then I was like, but I'm sure it was me.
I was like, either this was an accident from Alexis or Marissa, or Liz was adding a card to the account to like more easily like link all of the things that Liz pays for, because Liz is our glucose guardian when it comes to running the show.
I pay for StreamYard.
Liz, whose debit card had just been declined at the McDonald's. I literally was like, I don't even know how I would do that, but I know that it's.
Everyone's learning a lot about us tonight. I also would like to point out.
I'm literally crying, but it's fine. Okay.
That text was sent much earlier this week, and I did not know this text was referring to a credit card until about 5 minutes before the show started. This whole week, I've had no idea what anyone was talking about. I was like, a card, like a slideshow? A card, like a thank you card? Like, I had no idea what kind of card we were talking about, which makes it even better. Okay. We have 2 more to get through. The next one. Have I uploaded it yet as a banner? This Sean and Eddie thing just feels really gay. I would like the context behind this text.
Okay, listen. One of us is still not sure when they're viewing media if it's actually gay or if we're just projecting gayness upon it, right? And when one of us was watching Step Up Revolution, they felt much more chemistry between Eddie and his best friend Eddie. Eddie and his best friend Sean. Eddie and his best friend Eddie. Eddie and his best friend Eddie. Then they did between Eddie and the female character. There was a big
Sean
breakup.
and the female character.
Yeah, Sean and the other Eddie and the female character. There was a big breakup between the two of them. There were like almost angry tears. It was a big thing. There was kind of implied like division of belongings. And so one of us may have asked the other queer people in the group chat if it was actually.
I think that's very valid. And Sly, was there a response sent to this?
The response was, the Sean and Eddie thing is very gay and gets even more fun in the crossover fic that's the infamous all you gotta do is step AO3 fic, which is 911 crossed with Step Up, in which Sean becomes Eddie Diaz and then it's Eddie and Eddie.
I have read that fic and I'm still just kind of putting that together. It's fine. We can.
speaking of a great transition, I need you all to know I've been slowly inundating Alexis with Teen Wolf brain rot. This was also in relation.
It was assassins. It was art thieves. It was gay. I just really needed Alexis to read this Teen Wolf fanfic.
And Alexis will always say yes to gay assassin art thieves 100% of the
like
time.
The third Teen Wolf fic I've said to Alexis, knowing that Alexis gives 0 fucks about Teen Wolf, but I keep finding Teen Wolf fics and going, Alexis, I need you to experience this fanfiction with me.
Half of what happens behind the scenes on this show is us emotionally supporting each other through fandoms we are not part of.
Yeah.
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 And speaking of emotional support,
I
our last
also
text of the
said-
week- Go ahead.
Sorry,
No, go ahead.
I also inundated Liz with a return to the Teen Wolf brain rot via a great fanfic recommended by the one and only JJ that made me lose my mind.
I'm reading it tonight. I cannot wait. It'll be my post-show read. Oh my god. Okay, we have one more text and then we're talking Miss Marvel for 20 minutes. Okay, the last text that was sent this week that we wanted to highlight was, we will never forgive, we will never forget, we ride at dawn, all caps, no punctuation. And we will
I
not
don't
be
know
revealing...
when this text happened.
Well, we're not revealing the context behind this, but I was the one that sent it. And if you're looking for more motivation like that in your life, you can follow me on Instagram stories where this energy shows up frequently. Okay, time for Miss Marvel. And we're going to start with spoilers, obviously, for the newest episode of Miss Marvel, episode 4, with a toast. A toast.
I'm running low on a beverage.
Me as well.
But it's fine.
I will start. A toast to drinking Canada Dry on airplanes.
Oh, that's
Cheers.
a good toast.
Mm-hmm. I was happy to see it. I was very happy to see it. Sly?
My toast is to Waleed for getting fridged.
Pour one out.
Pour one out for the homie.
And Alexis?
I had 2 toasts. I had a toast to Sakina Jaffrey being the show. And I had a toast to the power of traditional clothing, which also showed up in this episode.
My iced coffee is warm. Sorry you
My
all had to
water's
witness
empty.
that. Gross. The power of traditional clothing. Yes. Big week for that. And some beautiful costuming this week.
Yes.
But before we talk about some of the things we liked, let's start with some WTF moments of the week. Mine is going to take a very long time, so I don't want to start. Sly, what would you like to point out?
So I was watching this episode, right? But I had already seen all of the promotional images while I was putting together a mock-up for what our thumbnail may or may not look like. We'll see after I finish. But I was talking about how much I loved Kamala's outfit with the Comic-Con shirt and the mask. I thought it was so fun and so great. And I was watching with Liz and I was like, man, I really love this outfit. And Liz had a surprised face. And the episode continues. And then there's a line about people not liking her outfit. And then there's another line about people not liking her outfit. And she was like, man, people really don't like this outfit. And I was like, I did. I liked the outfit. I fucking loved that outfit.
Sly paused the show. Sly paused the show to say, I like the outfit.
I really really like her outfit here. It's the jeans, it's the Comic-Con shirt or AvengerCon shirt, it's the mask. I went on this whole tirade about the outfit. I continued, and like maybe 5 minutes later, there was a comment about nobody liking her outfit. And I was like, me! I did!
The jeans had like an embroidery, like pop bubble too. That was really cute. Like the bottom of her jeans. I thought
it was a great outfit.
Yeah.
So we are pro outfit on We'll Throw the After Party. We are pro Kamala's outfit. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a good one. And it was very had the Jaws theme music playing in my head once I was like, oh, I like the outfit because I knew it was coming in a mere matter of minutes. So I was like, oh no, bestie. Oh no. Alexis, what was your moment of the week?
Okay, my moment of the week. Okay, for context, I truly feel, and no one is allowed to argue with me on this, that you all have much more interesting conversations when I'm not on the show. And last week you had a conversation about like female villains, right? And female characters having female villains, right? And the different types of villains that we want for characters, you know, like Kamala. And so my WTF this week was that she makes the comment about the Red Daggers being a boy band, but then they're not, which, okay, fine. But you can't tee me up with having her like setting this in a world where her villain could, or her support network could feasibly be a boy band and then take it away from me. One of my first long form conversations with Liz, I introduced her to Cool Drones from SNL.
Cool drones.
Which would be a One Direction / NSYNC style boy band of drones. And I just think that something like that would be a perfect like network or villain entity for this like teen superhero. And it is really annoying me that they like introduced the idea to my head and then didn't give it to me.
I need to quickly refute the idea that we have more thoughtful conversations when Alexis isn't here, because I legitimately put in my notes this week a bullet point that just says the veil. Lol, Harry Potter brain rot. This is the level of commentary going on.
Let's talk about the level of commentary that happens when Alexis is not around, because let me reveal something that I wrote in the script. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Here's what I wrote, my great thought of the week. Feels like a
question mark.
I was feeling something about something, and I couldn't tell you what it was. There was also a comment that I had. Hold on. Hold on, I can't find it now. It might have been from last week. Anyway, I also had a dumb comment last week that I read it back and was like, oh, I feel like I shouldn't be giving commentary on a show if this is the level of thought that I'm able to give anything at any given time. But Alexis asked us not to argue in public about this, so we won't, as we love you dearly. So we will not argue with you while the cameras are still on. However, I would like to share my WTF moment of the week, but also now I'm thinking of a multiverse where they are a boy band, and I will be thinking about that for the next week to come. So thank you, Alexis. Like, that has to be true somewhere.
Drones, right? Like,
I'm with you. 1,000%. My WTF moment of the week comes with a visual aid, which we love. The DODC, they could only think of one name for their prison, and they called it the Supermax prison. Sounds like a prison you buy at Walmart on discount. Now, here's the thing. So I watched the episode, went through my breakdown about technology, and then decided to rewatch the episode with Sly so I could like be fresh for the show. And upon watching it a second time, had the same thought, but decided, you know what? No, let's actually do the research and see what we can find on this thing before I roast it. Because perhaps this is a name that Marvel coined. It is?
I mean, a
No.
super max prison is an actual thing. The
But-
name means something.
But
Yes.
naming it
But
just
naming it Supermax Prison,
Supermax Prison as the name of the prison.
that's the best they could do. Like, no veil of secrecy. They couldn't call it the DODC High Security Vault or the DODC, like, red clearance something. Like, no, it's just straight up, here it is. In Canada,
Or
we have
actually
a brand.
pull a canonical, prison. Like, we have the
Prison.
Raft,
No.
we have...
Yeah.
Just the
That's what
Supermax one,
confused me. I was like, you have other prisons.
Right.
right? But no, just here it is, Supermax Prison. We have a brand in Canada. You know how like you go to like a chain and they'll have like the chain brand. One of our chain brands is called No Name, and the whole thing is like if you go to buy like a row of like saltine crackers, the box is yellow and in black text it just says like saltine crackers. Or you go to buy like a box of tissues and it's a yellow box and it has black text that just says tissues. And like everything they sell is this like coding of there is no like fancy names for anything. It is what it is. And to me, this is giving No Name prison. Like if No Name was to have a prison in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is what they would name it.
I do now kind of want a shirt that just says Supermax Prison. Like I survived Supermax
Prison. That was my moment of the week. I feel like we could come up with many more inventive names. And also, to the point of yet another piece of world building that we may never come back to. Are we ever going to see this prison again? I don't think so.
Why not use one of the other ones?
That very much exists.
There's so many others.
And I feel like, okay, so I have a note that says there have been good thigh chokes and really bad ones. And I would like to say that the really bad one occurs in Supermax the prison. And I would like to say that we, at least, I mean, they beat the Raft, but like it kind of required tactical thinking. And like at least they were successful in getting them all in cells on the Raft. I don't think Supermax the prison was successful of like containing it all, right? Like,
no, in fact, I would say it was a super bad prison.
Yeah,
there was nothing max about this.
Your bargain brand Walmart prison was unsuccessful, and you should have just redefined your jurisdictional lines and sent them over to the Raft.
That's a really good point, actually. And it's not to say that the group breaking out was not powerful or incapable, but I feel like there should have been about 5 more lines of obstacles for them to break through. But no, they were
I will
gone.
also say that these are conversations I would like to come back into the world when I have my PhD in criminal justice.
Yeah, let's revisit this when you can say you are a doctor.
I would like at my graduation someone to remind me that I said the things that I just said.
Consider it done, my friend. We shall hold you accountable to it. Now let's break down a few of the things that we did get from this episode in the last few minutes that we have. The theme that I'm the most excited to share is y'all have heard me say week after week after week that I need one thing from Kevin Feige, and that is a map. And guess what we got in this godforsaken Marvel property? A map. We got one. We had a diagram. We had visual aids. I screamed. I cheered. I applauded at my screen. Do I have questions about the visual aid? Yes. Did it give me everything I wanted? No. But am I happy that we finally got a visual aid to explain how universes work? Very, very much. So I am pleased. I'm, of course, referencing this idea of the veil. Yes, Liz got her map. I would like more, Kevin, since we know you're watching, since you clearly made this happen based on my commentary from 7 days ago when you obviously filmed this a year ago. I am not sure how I feel about it, but we did get it. And I have to accept a low bar from Marvel. So that's how I'm feeling about this week's episode. If anything, I got a map we got a half-hearted explanation that we will continue building on in future episodes for how the veil operates. And we know that there's two worlds that could potentially come together and have some kind of crossing over should the veil fall. Is that right? Is my understanding of that right? Are those the stakes that we're up against here, folks?
It's the plot of Friends.
If the veil falls, it destroys the current Earth.
Ah. Okay, thank you so much. Now, here's a good question coming from JJ that I don't know the answer to. Is that how the multiverse works? Or is that how different dimensions work?
I'm pretty sure it's dimensions, because it's the Noir dimension, right? So they're layered, right? Except for these two are right next to each other, and there's the veil. So if the veil falls, this dimension smashes the other one. That's the vibe I got.
Is that kind of like what happened in the Doctor Strange episode of What If? Like
that was a multiverse collapsing in
on itself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Versus two dimensions. I find the mechanics of all this very confusing for my one brain cell to take.
I don't trust the science, but I picture dimensions as like layers and multiverses as like spheres in like
that's interesting.
Space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Alexis, where do you sit on this?
I mean, in the same place. I think listen, so one of my favorite things is consuming stories about like multiverses, right? And there are a lot of multiversal stories where the idea with a multiverse, right, is that like every action you take, like the other action is taken somewhere else. And so there are some really interesting stories out there in different forms of media about like how worlds could bleed in on each other because of those choices. But my understanding here was that like if this was a multiversal collapse issue, that we would have already seen those effects in other parts of the Marvel universe. And so that this was a dimensional, like stacking pancake situation.
Right on.
Everything Sly said.
Okay. I have a whole train of thought that I'm going to pause on. Sly, would you like to continue?
With?
I don't know. I thought you were going to say something. I thought I cut you off. Did I cut you off?
Oh, no. No, absolutely not. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm vibing. We talked about maps. Yay, maps. We love maps.
Yay, maps next. The writing. Let's talk about the writing. How are we feeling about the writing for this episode? Sly,
I had multiple times where I exclaimed while watching this, oh my god, the writing. There were so many lines that were like so well delivered but so well crafted that just stabbed me in the fucking heart and ripped my heart out of my chest this episode. The writing was exquisite. It emotionally destroyed me. And that, was the exact energy I was wanting from this episode, right? We got to see so much about the idea of like familial relationships between a mother and a daughter in different generations. We get to see generational trauma. We get to see the idea of being a stranger to your own culture. We get to all of this like rich, detailed storyness was in it, and just there were so many lines that every time they were delivered, I was just like, oh my god, that was so brilliantly worded. I was a big fan of the writing.
Alexis?
Same.
I would add that I think the writing was spectacular, but to me, the directing of this episode was quite beautiful. The performances were quite beautiful, but you could see how like the director really brought all of the elements together in a really interesting way. The use of spacing and framing in this episode in relation to the script was interesting upon second watch, to talk about like the intimacy or lack thereof between characters and how the space and the close-up framing would change depending on how intimate the dialogue was getting. And it felt very like feminine to me in a way that perhaps we haven't seen with other Marvel shows, and perhaps it's because we had a more like feminine lens of storytelling this episode as well between like the 3 generations that we saw. But yeah, shout out to whoever directed this episode. I'm gonna look it up after this because I thought it was one of those moments in Marvel where you could see how the eye of the director really added to the story. And sometimes we don't always get that. Sometimes you can see how a director's eye actually takes away a level of detail in Marvel properties that like perhaps we would have wanted to see. I think in Hawkeye specifically, there was a lot of moments that we missed because of just like a lack of knowledge around how things should be framed, as Sly very like wonderfully educated us on. But this felt like a moment where there was so much thoughtfulness from that perspective as well, which was nice to see.
This has been an episode that I think because we just finished it, but also because they're both properties that are theoretically grounded in like this rich cultural background. Ms. Marvel's a show that I have compared and contrasted in my head a lot with Moon Knight. And one of the things that I really liked that Ms. Marvel has done, but specifically in this episode, was the choice to say certain words and phrases in the different languages that they're speaking on the show. And it's not just one, right? They switch between a couple. And the kind of like, they have very distinctly and very intentionally, I think, chosen the moments where those switches should happen. And I think that adds kind of a level to the writing and the directing and the performance in this series. And those are things that I kind of missed in Moon Knight. Like, I think I would have felt much more of a connection to Egypt and that heritage if we would have had more consistent moments and choices like that.
Yeah, completely agree. And at this time, I think it's relevant to think this commenter, the director for episodes 4 and 5 is a Pakistani director who is also an Oscar winner, Sharmeen Obaid. Hooray. Thank you for that. But no, I think it is interesting, like, to think about also, like, how Moon Knight is also an origin story. Like, it's not just, like, comparing two properties because of, like, their cultural values and, like, the similarities on that end of the spectrum, which they certainly do share, but also in terms of how they're both built with the intention of delivering two intense, forward-focused characters who, like, have roots in family and have roots in, like, I don't know, like, similar, like, fights for identity in their own ways. Yeah.
Especially with the vibes between, like, specifically Moon Knight and now Miss Marvel. One of my biggest points during Moon Knight was what happened to that family that was sitting down for like dinner right in that big fight scene. I wanted to know what was going on with them, and we got so many sitting down to eat moments in this episode specifically that I was like, this is what I was looking for. This is the connection. Yes, please make me crave biryani for like literal hours after watching this episode, and it's going to be all I'm thinking about for the next days, because you know you're highlighting that, you're showing it off, right? And like, just the vibes of the show feel so much more grounded in locations. And Moon Knight very much was, they talked a lot about how they were all filmed in like the same place besides that one desert, right? And I felt like it showed. It didn't feel very grounded in location.
But Moon Knight also didn't really feel grounded in what it wanted to be. The show feels so grounded in like what it wants to be in the space it wants to hold for its characters. And Moon Knight never felt, even in its chaos and even in like the roller coaster it takes you on, which is kind of like the point of it, it still never grounded itself in like one point of proof, versus Miss Marvel feels very grounded in the one point of proof of like, this is a coming of age story of like this like teenage wonder child who is very endearing and lovable. Moon Knight from like day one had nothing to tether itself to. So the vibes always felt a little off. What else do we want to say on this note? We have a few minutes left. We have about 10 minutes left of this episode. How do we want to wrap our thoughts on Miss Marvel?
I had a couple thoughts on the whole clandestine stuff. We talked last week a lot about, how they were set up and how it was unclear, and that was a problem if they didn't resolve it. We got to see the resolution here, making it very clear that this was a group that came to a location and co-opted a name that was already being used and aren't necessarily that specific thing, but are using that to describe themselves to make them more understandable to the Earthlings, right? So that was really great. And just like seeing more of the powers, we got more interaction with the bangle, with it being stabbed. The ending especially was really interesting. Do we want to talk about my theory for the ending?
Go for it.
So I was watching the ending, and my notes are very not coherent, but basically when I saw we were back in time, it was I saw the train and I was like, oh my gosh, Kamala's getting up on top of the train. She must be the reason for the stars that led Hernani back to the train. So I'm very excited to see if that plays out. We'll see.
I will say, my brain did not piece that together. So when Sly said it to me the first time, I was like, oh my God. And I can't believe I watched it twice and didn't piece it together. But that's why we do this show, so that we can all learn from each other. I think you're right. For sure. I don't know how else that scene could happen. Alexis, so you are agreeing as well?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other predictions you would add for where this is going?
I think one of the things, just briefly, that has been interesting, or is interesting about kind of an origin story like this, is that usually you're kind of working up to the moment that they get the costume, right? Where they like have embodied their superhero self. And it's something that the CW's Arrow tried to do for the entirety of its run on air, right? Like every season was like, okay, we're getting to the point that Oliver's in the costume. And then it would be like, okay, but the next season the end point is going to be another costume, right? Like it's like, okay, now we're sleeveless. Now we have a mask. Now we're less of a murderer, like it would be every season we were working towards this thing, right? That like, oh gosh, it was such a, like, I was an avid listener of like several podcasts for that show. And it was like every podcast episode was like, but what are we adding this year? And what does it mean? And I think one of the things that this show has done really in a really interesting way is she kind of had this costume that she cosplayed, but like throughout the show, we have added more and more pieces of like heritage to what she's wearing when we see her powers, right? And this episode was one where we got like the fabric, vest, and how much heritage and like spirit and like power had been woven into that fabric. So I'm really hoping, my prediction is kind of that we'll get to a point where we see the costume, but that the costume will be kind of this really meaningful piece that has been built through her heritage and her backstory as she has learned it like throughout the series, and not just Barry Allen giving her a mask.
Great, amazing, awesome, thoughtful commentary for your prediction. And my next prediction is completely out there and so ridiculous.
Please, Alexis is about to make me cry, so please take us somewhere that will not make me cry. That was beautiful.
Right.
And I had also thought
it was
about
beautiful.
zero of the things
amazing.
you had said. So I'm like, you're so right. That would be so lovely. Okay, Fly, please help.
At the very end of the animated like credits scene, we got the shot of the like roads with the Miss Marvel art in the background, and it gave me major Watcher vibes. And so I'm like, is there going to be a Miss Marvel Watcher crossover?
We've also seen like the I think one of the really cool things about the show, one of the many cool things, it's been that our title cards change every episode.
Yep.
Like there are different ones in the stack, right? But it's done in this very like kind of poppy, almost like street art. And in this episode, we saw a lot of street art in kind of the same style. And I would love our finale episode to feature Miss Marvel street art, where like she has become enough of the conversation that like people are now doing that with her name and kind of the style
the
of
Ant-Man
the
street art was so cool.
It really was.
Sly, was it you or was it when I was watching it that the last piece of the new end screen that happened at the end of this episode, looking down, was like the outline of Miss Marvel, but it looked like the Watcher from What If?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was you.
That's the point I just made.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was thinking about that and then thinking about what Alexis was saying and then like wondering like if we're going to see more of that specific imagery of like the outline of her and like an added like layer of mystery. Like she's not going to get revealed to the public and she's going to continue to be this like masked whatever versus like coming into her own and being, you know, like Spider-Man across the city. Like this is exactly what you're looking for. Like this is the face of the superhero. That's a point that I'm interested to see more about. Also, there's a lot of commentary that we did not get to with Miss Marvel, and we have some wonderful creators that we would like to plug who do excellent Miss Marvel commentary all the time on TikTok. Watch with Neebs, Call Me by the Same Maria, and the Hijab Bounder. You can follow the Hijabi Bounder, excuse me. You can follow all of them on TikTok, and they do excellent commentary. One more piece about Miss Marvel that I would like to end on is the marvelous line that is said by Miss Kamala. How do you know I'm not Canadian?
I did love that line.
It was a great
Canada
line. And do you want to know how we know she's Canadian? Because only Canadians say it like Canadian. And when she said it, I was like, where's your New Jersey accent, friend? Because like that came out through and through, you Canadian. Okay. For example, would both of you please say that line?
I would say it. I would say, how do you know I'm not Canadian?
See?
Sounds
completely different.
Is it? I don't know.
Yes, very much.
Sounds the same to me, but I'm deaf. So.
I would say the same thing. I would just say, how do you know I'm not Canadian?
But you don't emphasize the A, like Canadian. If you listen to the way she says it, she's
no, because my Southern is going to come out, and it's going to become, how do you know I'm not Canadian?
See, again, it's different. It's different. The first time I heard her say it, I was losing it because I was like, some acting coach needs to let her know that, like, if you're doing an American accent, you would never say Canadian, like Canadian. Yeah.
Maybe it was a fun little nod just for you, Liz.
I think it was. I think it was
Kevin Feige put on the notes, Elizabeth needs a map. He was also like, let's make sure
hard
we call
A
out
in
Canada.
Canadian.
Yeah, hard A Canadian for Elizabeth.
Truly.
I would like to also add to the pronunciation of Canadian places that Liz said I pronounce Toronto wrong when I spelt it out how I would say it, but then when I said I said it correctly, and so I just don't trust Liz when she says anything about pronunciation
of it. We were having many debates about Toronto versus Toronto, and I want to say publicly, from the PR angle of this movie, The Toronto Man, Kevin Feige has tried to defend their choice to do it. Or not Kevin Feige. Oh my God, Kevin Feige. No, Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart's coming out. Oh my God, very different. Kevin Feige said nothing about this. Kevin Hart's out here trying to defend, like, well, we thought. No, just apologize, Kevin Hart. You tour this country every year. You should know how to say Toronto. And I'm very upset about it. But that's a rant for next week's. We're at the end of our 2 hours, folks. And we did not actually prep the end of our show. Yeah, see, I don't agree with this. To me, this reads as Toronto.
I just realized on our show doc that I left a note that we needed to figure out how to close the show. And I did not really leave that note in English. The very long note about like how are we gonna close the show? I know we moved this segment, blah blah blah, was written in Hebrew and not in English. So I'm
Correct.
sorry
So
for that.
no one responded to it.
No
We were
one
like,
responded,
okay.
and we still don't know how
I
to
thought
end
it
this
was an
show.
Alexis note to Alexis.
I also thought it was an Alexis note to Alexis, so I just left it. I wasn't gonna touch it. And the fact that not one of us thought to translate it also tells you how much blind trust we have in Alexis when it comes to prepping this
And
show.
the fact that we've gotten so far in our relationship with it happening that no one was like, Alexis, that's not in English. Like, it just...
That is so funny. Yeah, we have not prepped a closing for the show. If Marissa was here, she would have caught that. So again, go follow Missa Bobissa on all platforms. Poor Marissa, we've missed you this week, but she will be back to share in more chaos around Only Murders in the Building and Miss Marvel episode 5 next week. In the meantime, why not do some final plugs? I'm producer Liz. Lots of Taylor Swift news that I have not talked about that I'll be ranting about on Instagram and TikTok, most likely. As well as Thor spoilers are up on my TikTok, so be careful. If you don't want spoilers for Thor, don't be going near my TikTok. But if you don't care, there's also lots of good stuff about One Direction on there these days. And that's it. I'm just a big bundle of chaos, as per usual. Sly?
Hi, I'm Sly. I'm a Deaf Queer Jane Austen fan, and you can find me everywhere on the internet at SlyCloneMC. Not much going on there, but they exist. You can find me yelling about 911, and last week we talked about everything I know about Supernatural as somebody who's ever seen it. I have no idea what we're talking about this week, but on Thirsty Thursdays with JJ, it's a great time. JJ and I have a blast. We get very drunk on TikTok lives on Thursdays and yell about all the things in media and pop culture while we're enjoying the hiatus from 911.
Thursday is a great time.
It is a great time. You can also find me on Point in Progress on the Point in Progress podcast and on MC University, where we're rewatching I'm watching for the first time, and Mario's rewatching all of the non-MCU Marvel movies. It's been a blast. The last one we did was Punisher Warzone. We have X-Men Origins Wolverine coming up soon. So find out about that.
Very exciting, clearly. And Alexis.
I'm at Alexis Blake Reads Comics on TikTok and at Alexis D. Blake other places on the internet. And like usually I talk about stuff, but recently I really haven't been. I'm about to watch Step Up 5 that exists. So follow me on Instagram to join that journey at undoubtedly 2:00 in the morning.
Step Up All In is such a time. I can't wait for you to watch it.
I'm looking for salsa representation.
I love a good bookended episode, and I feel like we've just done it. So let's end it there. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and we will see you next Saturday with all four of us talking Only Murders in the Building and Miss Marvel here on What's with the After Party. Bye, friends!